We're here to celebrate the Reading for Pleasure Award 2021 and delighted you've joined us. I'm Teresa Cremin from the Open University and thank you, Sam, if you can move us to the next slide. We're going to be sharing tonight a few moments on reading motivation, then the award announcements, including the films that the winners have made. David Reedy and I from UKLA are going to have one last word, one slide each, and then we're going to finish with a book wave. So I hope you've got a book somewhere near you to take us on. Thank you, Sam, to move us on. So I wanted just to take a moment to think of reading for pleasure, choosing to read, being motivated as a reader, and share this delicious picture taken last week at Snenton Primary in one of our whole school RFP award-winning schools from yesteryear, where these two young folk had settled down on the playground in break time on the rugs here to read. Marilyn Mottram and I, a current Ofsted inspector who is part of the original Teachers Readers project, have recently been working with 4 teachers, including Julie Doyle from this school, trying to understand motivation, trying to understand these and other individuals' inclinations, preferences, whether they like getting lost in books, whether they want to laugh, cry, have a desire to stay with characters. We've learned quite a lot about motivation more generally. Thank you, Sam. Could you move us to the next one? We're wondering, and I'm wondering to myself, having seen this photo and been part of it, are they intrinsically motivated to read? Did they want to read? They came out of the playground, they seemed to find the book box and they dove in and then sat next to one another. But are they also reading for their own curiosity as well as perhaps reading because they want to do well? Perhaps they're reading for recognition. For external purposes, the internal, intrinsic, often combines with the external, extrinsic desire to achieve well, perhaps, or to achieve for mummy, or indeed, perhaps, sadly, for the system. There are also, of course, social motivations, reasons that children want to read in relation to one another. I mean, look how close these two are. They come from the same class. They could have sat anywhere else on the rug. There was a lot of other space on the rug, not many other children there, but they've snuggled down close next to one another. Perhaps they're ready to share, chat, swap. And in the detailed case study accounts of Julie and other teachers who we've been working with, we found a lot about the power of peers and friends, as well as teachers in this reading space. Socially motivated readers seem to want to read because their mates do, because others do. Thank you, Sam. So if we turn to the research evidence, we can see that very clear, strong research evidence shows that intrinsic motivation, that internal desire, is more closely associated with frequent reading and skill than extrinsic. And that intrinsic strategies are often linked to that sense of belonging, wanting to belong, wanting to be autonomous. And as Orkin's work shows in a very large-scale randomized control trial looking at summer reading challenges, intrinsic motivational strategies were more effective in sustaining readers into the autumn term than the extrinsic strategies which the other group were given. In other words, they were given prizes and competitions and gold stars and popcorn and so on. But we've also seen in our own work and in that of Margaret Mergers in Australia and Sarah McGowan's in Scotland, that social motivation is another driver. When children are encouraged by their relationships, their desire for connections with others. Look at this crew from Sayes Court, who won the whole school award last year. These children are snuggled together. Now, is that about mates, my friends, or is it about reading, or is it about a combination? And so one might say that social and intrinsic motivation operate in a close and complex combination. Thank you, Sam. Could you move us on? And then, so what I really want to say in these first 5 slides, and this lovely picture from St Matthew's, the original RFP award-winning school in Birmingham, I want to highlight and remind us that this business of motivation, of desire, is not fixed. I'm not either extrinsically motivated or intrinsically motivated. It's always going to depend upon the book and on that sense of classroom practice, how teachers support young readers and foster their interests and their motivations is always going to make a difference. And like each reader's identity, it's always fluid. You don't become the avid reader and remain avid forever. All of us have had stumbling blocks in our journeys as adult readers where you think, I haven't found anything good for ages. and a bit bored of this, and then you switch to something else, or switch to cooking for a while, perhaps, if you're anything like me, get hooked on cooking and then kind of leave the reading behind for a bit. So it's not about further, faster, higher, more books, fatter books. It's about diversity and about the journey, and support for that journey is just what our Reading for Pleasure teachers, whose work we're celebrating tonight, have offered their young people. Flexible support for the journey, not one motorway that all must follow. Thank you, Sam. Can you turn to the next one, please? So just a quick thank you from me to these 4 award-winning schools, photographs of which I've shared with you. Such lovely photographs that show the motivation and engagement of the young people. So I can't wait to move us on, Sam, for the winners to be made public tonight. I wonder who it is who's going to get the accolade of Whole School Reading for Pleasure Award, or perhaps 2. Let's find out.
Welcome to the 4th year of Farshore's Reading for Pleasure Awards. I'm Cally Poplak, Executive Publisher of Farshore. Some of you will remember us as Egmont Books. Last year we were bought by HarperCollins and we rebranded as Farshore. Our awards, in collaboration with the Open University and the UK Literacy Association, seek to recognise teachers who put reading for pleasure at the heart of their practice. We're awarding in 4 categories this year: Early Career Teacher, Experienced Teacher, Whole School Award and Community Reading Champion. Farshore is a specialist children's publisher, and our purpose is to make every child a proud reader through a broad and diverse portfolio. We want to publish books that make all children feel that reading is for them, because there is a wealth of data and research, including from Farshore, that shows that children who read for pleasure simply do better in life. I'd like to share the data for 2020, both an overview and a focus on primary school aged children. First, looking at all children up to the age of 17. In 2020, 23% read daily or nearly every day. Back in 2012, it was 38%. Last year, 21% of 0 to 17-year-olds read rarely or never. In 2012, it was 13%. 0 to 17 is a huge age and stage span, but it shows us the direction of travel. Fewer children are choosing to read for pleasure, and those that do are reading less often. Last year, with COVID and lockdowns, we saw a big drop in 5 to 10-year-olds choosing to read daily or nearly every day for pleasure. For 5 to 7-year-olds, in 2019 the figure was 41%, and last year it was just 31%. For 8 to 10-year-olds, in 2019 the figure was also 41%, and last year it was 34%. So how do we turn this round? Through Farshore's own research, and please do look at the research papers on our website, we have found 3 clear ways to motivate a child to read for pleasure. First, access to a wide choice of reading material. Second, freedom to make their own choice of what they want to read. And finally, being read to every day for pleasure. Being read to is so powerful because it completely changes the atmosphere around reading. Even for reluctant readers, it becomes a huge treat. But we see parents doing this less and less. This, of course, is a function of busy lives, lack of awareness, and seeing it as a chore. In 2012, an average of 41% of 0 to 13-year-olds were read to daily or nearly every day. Last year, it was just 31%. 5 to 7s really suffered last year. 37% of them were read to daily or nearly every day, down from 44% in 2019. But there is hope. For 8 to 13-year-olds, the data shows that if they are read to daily or nearly every day, they are twice as likely to read independently for pleasure than if they are read to just weekly. What happens at home is obviously very important. Children need to be read to and to see reading as a normal activity and a pleasurable thing to do. And it's been fantastic to see the way schools are reaching out to parents to get this message across. And it's been truly humbling to see what amazing work you are doing in schools, and the understanding that reading for pleasure has a huge positive impact on literacy, on attainment, on well-being, even on society, and that pleasure can't be taught, it can only be shared. Every year, the entries inspire us, and as the word spreads of these awards, we hope that more and more teachers will adopt the exciting approaches that you share with us, and that more children will be lucky enough to go to schools like yours. They deserve to. Congratulations to all the winners who get £250 worth of Farshore Books and a trophy. Now I'm delighted to hand over to Jamila Gavin, author of many acclaimed books, including Coram Boy and the Wheel of Surya trilogy, and an epic new novel which I'm incredibly excited about, set in the Second World War, called Never Shall I Ever Forget You, which Farshore is publishing next year.
Hello, I'm Jamila Gavin, and I was so privileged to be on the jury judging the Farshore Teachers Reading for Pleasure Awards. We had 4 categories. There was the early career teachers, the experienced teachers, community reading champion, and the whole school award. I'd like to quote the distinguished educationalist Teresa Cremin. She says, "Reading for pleasure is that children do it for themselves. They choose their own books, read at their own pace and in their own way." This is the great challenge which all categories in this award were facing, and I must say it was brilliant to see how resourceful all the candidates were. So let's start at the beginning with the Early Career Teachers Award. There was one winner, and that was Phoebe Lawton of the Wilmslow Academy, Cheshire. Phoebe Lawton has brought fresh enthusiasm into her school, determined that children mustn't see reading simply as a chore and something that takes place in lesson time without meaning outside of the classroom. So she set about to integrate a love of reading with everyone with whom the children would come into contact with: the school, their parents, teachers, and the community, including links with the local library. Instead of COVID being a disadvantage, she turned it into an advantage. Instead of being in competition with screens and devices, she had the idea of text talks, where children sent in videos about the books they were reading. This was brilliant and imaginative, and was a way of linking up all the technologies and making reading relevant to the age and circumstances they now live in. She also introduced a reading aloud time, which I'm sure must be fun, and fun equals pleasure, and pleasure equals an inducement to read. Much deserved award, Phoebe. Congratulations.
Hello everyone, I'm Phoebe Lawton and I'm the Year 5 teacher, RFP, SMSC and RE lead at the Wilmslow Academy in Cheshire. I am so thrilled to be awarded the Farshore 2021 Reading for Pleasure Early Career Teacher Award. My example of practice, titled Reading for Pleasure in the New Normal, explored RFP pedagogy, being a reading teacher and building a reading community. This encompassed Who's Reading videos, read aloud time and creating a shared space and time for children to read simply for pleasure. I am so proud of the reading community we have built. There is a real buzz about books, and I love nothing more than overhearing the children discussing what they're reading whilst walking up and down the corridors. The biggest bits of advice I would give to anyone is to give time to reading for pleasure, ensuring that there is a shared space and experience for all, while supporting children reading for themselves at their own pace, with whom they choose and in their own way, but also embedding a reading for pleasure culture through the principles, ensuring practice is research informed and motivates your children intrinsically. Thank you again so much for this award. I cannot wait to be part of this community more in the future.
The next one is the Experienced Teachers Award. Apart from a winner, we had 4 highly commended, of whom 3 teachers came from Coleshill Heath School. And they were Kathy Whiting, Deb Johnson and Sharon Ealing. Between them, they created a new initiative to turn Year 4 pupils into teachers and encouraging them to encounter nursery children and teach them to become readers. Start young is the mantra, and the scheme succeeded in setting the tone from the very beginning, combining fun and responsibility. Older children become role models for the youngest children, enthusing them with a love of books. It was a brilliant idea, and I do hope it still continues. Our next highly commended is Mary Jenkinson of St Joseph's, Sheffield. In my notes next to Mary's name, I scribble the word heroic. Working in an area of high deprivation since 2019, Mary has turned around a school that was struggling. She knew that books and reading were vital to the foundations she must set. She aimed to create a reading culture to foster a love of books as a joint effort with staff, children and their parents. She put together book bags, reading with parents, tea parties with social reading spaces, spaces for book blethering. She made reading fun while making good use of the current pedagogy, learning from the UKLA, the Open University, and other sources. Mary Jenkinson is on the road to turning a deprived area into a vibrant and imaginative environment, which will in due course spill over and enhance the community. That's for sure. Bravo. The winner of the Experienced Teacher Award is Georgie Lax from Starcross Primary School, Devon. I had stars all round Georgie's name on my notes. She had said on her submission that her aim was to find books that suited every individual child. And this led her to create two categories, the funnies and the feelies. I say ooh and you say ah. She overlaid her own personal research onto existing accepted research and practices and made sure that the technical phonic readers used for learning to read were in conjunction with books she had found which fell into her two categories, and she built up a list of books that fitted them all. Georgie responded to the COVID restrictions with imagination and energy, successfully continuing her plan online. In preparation for returning to school, she organised a Reading for Pleasure week. As a one-entry school, Georgie's been able to involve the whole school in her push for making reading absolutely central to its culture. She displays the rigour of an academic with the imagination and original thinking of a creator. A great combination in a teacher. What a lucky school.
Hello everyone, my name is Georgie Lax and I am a Year 1 teacher and reading leader at Starcross Primary School. I'm absolutely delighted to have won the Farshore Reading for Pleasure Award 2021 in the Experienced Teacher category. Thank you so much. My example of practice, entitled The Funnies and the Feelies, focuses on books to support children's well-being during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Through developing my knowledge of children's literature, my class and I created a fit-for-purpose, social, reciprocal reading community overflowing with rich texts. I was fortunate to attend an abundance of webinars and book blethers where recommendations were endless. I wanted to buy every book that was mentioned. This, of course, was not possible, so instead I focused on texts that were either specifically recommended to make children and adults laugh, or those to promote connection and empathy with the bizarrely difficult time that was unfolding in the world around us. Learning about Children's Book Awards and conducting regular surveys and observations allowed me to better understand the children's reading preferences as I developed as a reading teacher. I watched in awe of my class as they established their own reading community, feeling so proud of their resilient nature as they became proficient readers of pleasure. Our class loved so many books during the year, but our favourite funny was John Cain's interactive When I Say Ooh, You Say Ah, possibly due to the numerous references to underpants. Our most powerful feelie was Patrice Cast's The Invisible String, which supported the children in ways I could never have anticipated. My understanding of reading for pleasure remains ongoing, but my example of practice concludes that a mix of funnies and feelies will always be necessary, catering for the hugely diverse spectrum of readers that we are so fortunate to have in every classroom. I advise those who are interested in developing reading for pleasure to listen. Listen to those around you. Experts are everywhere, ready to recommend books that may only take a second to mention, but the positive effects could last a lifetime. Experts come in many guises, but those at the centre of everything are the children. They are best positioned to help us to help them. Furthermore, be willing to change your practice. We can either facilitate or restrain reading for pleasure in schools, but readiness to adapt is key to fostering a love of reading in children. Give reading for pleasure the respect it deserves on the timetable, regardless of curriculum pressure. My research could not have been possible without listening to experts from the Open University and Danny Cook of the Ilsham Hub, or my amazing job share, Caroline Radcliffe's support and willingness to adapt. I would also like to thank all of the incredible staff and children at Star Cross, our wonderful parents, and of course those who matter the most, the exceptional Year 1 cohort of 2020.
Now the next category is Community Reading Champion category. This category has two amazing winners, Jenny Holder and Jill Queen. Both have worked unbelievably hard to create communities that value reading for adults and children, whether in or without school. Jenny Holder has been the coordinator of the Liverpool Learning Partnership, with up to 30 wards under her stewardship, and supports 160 primary and special needs schools. She made a YouTube Kids app available during lockdown for use in the home, something that would involve parents, carers and their children, and it worked brilliantly, and categorised themes in books, such as tragedy, voyage and return, rebirth, rags to riches. And she worked hand in glove with technology, using every tool in the book to keep her vision alive and vibrant and relevant.
Hi, I'm Jenny Holder. I'm the Reading Coordinator and Communications Manager at Liverpool Learning Partnership and Education Charity. I've been using the Open University's Reading for Pleasure site since it launched as a way to support my work, and I am absolutely over the moon to be a joint winner of the Farshore Awards Community Reading Champion Award. My submission for the award was about developing and sustaining reading communities through the pandemic and using online events and online resources to do so. One person though doesn't make a community, so this work really has relied on my colleagues in Liverpool Learning Partnership, school staff right across the city, and people in local organisations and national organisations too. And I'd say if you are looking to build a reading for pleasure community, your starting place really is identifying who that community is, who's in your local community and who's in the wider community that can help you. Get to know them, tell them about what you're doing to develop reading for pleasure, find out about their work, look for places to collaborate. Groups you might look at might be local community groups, other schools, charities like the one I work for, and definitely get to know what's on offer from your local library service and schools library service. Another piece of advice would be to use author events as a way to develop books in common and also develop a buzz around reading for pleasure in your school. You could even get together with other schools to share the costs of those events and share it together. I wish you all the best for your reading for pleasure journey.
Looking through all the submissions, I'd been fretting about the lack of emphasis reflecting diversity. But there it was in Jenny Holder's, as she devised and built up book lists and ran a Liverpool readathon. She stood out as a winner. As did Jill Queen from Netherburn Primary School in South Lanarkshire. A highly experienced teacher, Jill Queen has been working in a small school in South Lanarkshire. Her area has 94% of multiple deprivation, with 49% free school meals. She saw this as a challenge and set about building up the school library and then allowing children to become both the librarians and the borrowers. Wonderful. Coordinating with the community library, she engaged parents to become interested in reading alongside their children and sharing the joy of reading for pleasure. She had a huge impact on her community and could be said to have not only educated the children, but also a whole village. What better evidence do we need to know than that learning through fun is the best way to be educated and find pleasure throughout life? She is a marvellous inspiration. So thank you to both of them.
Hello everyone. Firstly, I'd like to take the opportunity to say how grateful and honoured I am to have been awarded the Community Reading Champion Award, and I would just like to say thank you so much to the judges. I'm sure that they had a huge amount of wonderful submissions to look through, so I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. So my community reading project started a couple of years ago when I was a member of the first TRG in Scotland. My plan initially was to redevelop our classroom libraries, as I was fully aware that these weren't being utilised properly in order to promote reading for pleasure. This project grew arms and legs, and along with my amazing pupil librarians that I recruited at the start of this project, we didn't only develop our classroom libraries, we redeveloped and re-established our school library, and we also opened our school library to the community as a village library, a community lending library. The reason this came about was I had asked the children as part of the questionnaire how often they visited the library in our local town. So we're based in a village and the nearest library is about 5 or 6 miles away. Now, astonishingly, over 90% of our families said that they had never been to the library, they'd never borrowed a book, they had never walked through the doors. And when I spoke to them more about this, it became clear that the reason for this was because it cost money to go on the bus to go there, and it just wasn't seen as a priority. Now, this really saddened me as I realised that so many of our families were missing out on amazing opportunities because financially they couldn't really afford the bus fare down. So this is why I decided that we would open our library as a lending library for the village. Now, it took months and months of organisation, but when the big day came, the grand opening came, it was just amazing to see how excited the librarians were, you know, that this day had finally arrived. So we worked every Wednesday after school. The children would stay back, they would call it their work, they saw it as a real job. They called it shifts actually. And they would work, and they didn't just work in the library to stamp out books and keep a record of what had been borrowed. They read to the younger children, they gave book recommendations, and a lot of elderly people used our library, and some of them would bring their newspaper along, and the kids would sit and have a cup of tea with them and have a chat, and it was just wonderful. And seeing people coming into our school and borrowing books and leaving with a big pile of books under their arm and a smile on their face was just heartwarming, and probably one of the highlights of my career to date. So if I could give 2 pieces of advice to anyone else embarking on a reading for pleasure journey within their school, it would be let the pupils lead it. You know, the pupils will say that our library is the heart of our school, and the pupils are the heart of our school. So if they are taking this forward and they are passionate about it, then this will undoubtedly permeate throughout the whole school community. And secondly, all I would say is enjoy it, embrace it. Take your staff on the journey with you. You know, if you want to create a buzz around books, then this is only going to be successful if you've got the backing of your staff. And I was very, very fortunate in my school to have that. So thank you everyone, and best of luck on your journey.
Finally, we come to the Whole School Award. I think there were 11 entries and they were impressive throughout. And again, we have joint winners and are highly commended. Our highly commended is Craig Clark from Lee Forest Primary Academy in Birmingham, in an area of high deprivation and diversity where less than half of his children are white. Their attainment has been below average, with low expectations, and they could easily be classified as a failing school. But Craig was determined to try and give his children the foundations for becoming lifetime readers. We know readers learn better, do better, and perform better in life from whichever area they come from. And he wanted to open those doors. He brought in 2 education consultants to advise and soon set up reading groups, book swaps, story times, and furthered the links with their local library. He was able to find their reading levels went up, a fantastic achievement. The 2 winners for the whole school award are Laura Atkinson of Lappal Primary School from Halesowen and John Biddle of Moorlands Primary Academy in Great Yarmouth. The title of Laura Atkinson's submission was Developing Reading Communities. Although her school is relatively affluent and mainly all white, she realised that there was too much of a tick box culture and that the staff's knowledge of books needed upgrading. She set about introducing the school to a wider range of children's literature to change and enthuse the staff to be part of her project. She wanted to develop a culture of reading which would become one of the main pillars of learning. She created reading spaces, broadened the range of texts for children to read and a knowledge of the authors who wrote them. She wanted to blur the lines between reading for duty, for the test. Her aim was genuine reading for pleasure. She studied pedagogy with the UKLA, using their resources available online. She not only built up the school library, but also a parents' library and created reading ambassadors among the children. Also, as importantly, Laura linked academic subjects like history, geography and sciences to books that could be found in the library, whether they were non-fiction or fiction, blending the two. This was a truly magnificent strategic plan to achieve her goals.
My name is Joanna Turner, and I have the privilege of being head teacher here at Lappal Primary School. We are delighted to have been awarded the Reading for Pleasure Teacher Award for the category of whole school. We are so proud of the recognition we have received for our work around reading for pleasure and for the steps we have taken to build a highly effective reading community. Without question, our engagement with the Reading for Pleasure research and participation in the Teachers' Reading Group has transformed our practice. Laura Atkinson has led the Reading for Pleasure project here at Lappal.
2 years ago, I engaged in the local Teachers' Reading Group network where our journey first began. Our vision was to ensure that not only do our children become proficient readers, but they also develop a love of literature and take pleasure in reading. Through strategic planning, our multifaceted approach has led to the children becoming immersed in literature, which has enabled them to broaden and diversify their repertoire of authors and reading materials. This was further recognised by Ofsted, who confirmed that reading has been placed at the heart of our school.
In order for Reading for Pleasure to be successful in your school, we would recommend that staff subject knowledge of children's literature is imperative in order to expose children to a wide range of quality texts. Staff also need to be able to effectively model the pleasure and enjoyment that can be derived from reading.
I found that as I enriched my knowledge of children's literature and explored the interests and reading habits of my pupils, that I became more confident and skillful in book matching and making recommendations to individuals.
As a school, we set aside a sustained period of time each day for reading for pleasure. This may be independent or with others, with peers or with teachers, or for listening to stories. We also recommend that pupils are able to express their rights as a reader by having choice and freedom to read for pleasure. We are passionate about promoting children to become intrinsically motivated to read rather than reading for recognition or reward.
Our pupils enjoy daily reading for pleasure sessions. Many are inspired by the informal discussions that take place. Children within my class are now enthusiastic to bring in books from home that they have read and want to share with their peers, providing recommendations of a new series of books and highlighting different authors through book bragging and book talk.
Supplying pupils with access to newspapers, magazines, comics and different texts has had a positive impact on the children's attitude towards reading, as they are now making conscious attempts to look beyond their go-to literature.
Throughout our journey, we have continuously maintained a clear vision and always held the reading for pleasure principles at the core of our approach. Consequently, this has led to an embedded culture of choice, breadth and enjoyment in reading here at Lawton.
John Biddle, our co-winner in this category with his submission, Building on the Foundations, his was passionate and ensured that reading too should be a foundation in the school. And for this, he must have the enthusiastic involvement of teachers and parents. Children need to see adults reading in their lives. It's no good saying to a child, read a book, and you go off and watch television. So he provided guidance for the parents, and when lockdown struck, every child took home 6 books. He kept the school library open for 2 days a week, though the school itself was closed. He had innovative ideas to keep up the excitement for reading, a reading challenge, a guest the staff reader, a parent book box, creating book jackets, creating reading spaces, book buddies, organising author visits as and when was possible.
I'm Mr Siddles, I'm the Deputy Head Teacher at Moorlands Primary Academy, and I'd just like to say on behalf of the pupils, the staff and the parents how thrilled and delighted we are at winning the whole school Reading for Pleasure Award.
Hello, my name is Marley from Moorlands Primary Academy, and here we love reading, and at the end of every year we make a reading history of all the great books we've read this year. Here are some of my favourites. I love the Outlaw Barjack book because all the characters and the intense stuff that goes on is just really good. And also When the Bell Goes, we focused on this a lot this year because we got sent some proof copies from Neil Zeta, and it's just got some really good poems in it.
Hello, my name is Harry and I love reading so much. Over this past year we've had a total of 4 authors come to us over Zoom, in lockdown and at school. They are Shania Jackson, Jack Michael Phillips, Connie Alexander and Neil Zeta. All 4 of those authors are really good, and I have a couple of favourite books as well. I have The Haunting of Emmeline Jones and Coaster Lake and Ghost Stadium, and these 2 are really good as well. I love reading, and everything we do in the school is about reading.
Hi, my name's Megan, and one of my favourite books is Ways to Be Me by Libby Scott and Rebecca Westcott.
Hi, my name's Olive. This is one of my favourite books called The Girl Who Stole an Elephant. It's by Nizrana Farouk, and I thought it was really good. This is a reading scrapbook. Every class has one, and each week somebody will take it home, fill a page with all the different books, what they've read, and they'll bring it back the next week and somebody else will take it.
Here are some of the books we've read so far. The Haunting of Emmeline Jones, Malamander, Planet Omar, Anisha Accidental Detective, and Smile and Guts. I can't wait until we carry on filling the scrapbook with books we've read.
John Biddle made space for the mystery novels, the graphic novels, poetry posts all around the village, and so importantly, in this diverse world, John Biddle ensured that there were books reflecting diversity and the challenges of racism in our society. This was a truly thorough and exciting submission. But I have to say that the whole awards investigation was fantastic. I loved being on the panel. I loved reading all the submissions. There were many themes that were echoed and re-echoed. You all understood the importance of not just the child, but the parents, the teachers, the staff, the whole community. They do say it takes a community to make a child. Well, one could say it takes a child to make a whole community. And you certainly reflected that. And I hope you feel as excited as I do about the future prospects of reading in schools and the kind of children that you are producing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamila. That was really lovely. Great presentation of the celebrations of the respect we're showing for all these fabulous reading teachers right across the country, including South Lanarkshire, and 2 new whole school RFP award winners to add to that Hall of Fame. You can find their examples of practice on the website, and indeed they've been being tweeted around as the presentations have happened. So that's fabulous, and do go and read them. There's lots of very rich detail, not only in their voices and their tips here about giving RFP the respect it deserves, but in the detail of each of the submissions that offer the really kind of rich, nuanced way that folk have in very different ways fostered and nurtured and motivated young readers. Thank you, Sam. Can you move us to the next? And David, do put your camera on to share something of UKLA.
Okay, and I'd just like to add my congratulations to the winners of all the categories, but in particular to emphasise what Jamila said about all of the submissions. They were inspirational as we read them. I was just moved to tears on some of the wonderful things that were going on in schools around the Reading for Pleasure. But just for a moment, I just want to draw your attention to the UK Literacy Association. This is the leading association for people who are interested in literacy learning and teaching. We're a membership organisation. We'd love you to hear from you. Come and have a look at the website, ukla.org. There's lots of interesting stuff in there to draw in terms of resources. But first and foremost, it's a community of like-minded people who get together because we are absolutely committed to literacy, teaching and learning. I consider it my part of my family, and I've been a member now for over 20 years. It's something that I think anybody who's interested in literacy teaching should be interested in joining an association like the UK Literacy Association. And we are delighted and privileged to be part of this award, and will continue to be so. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Sam, can you move us to the penultimate slide? Thank you. Just to say, great news for everybody tonight, and congratulations again. And just to let you know that the OU team have been working hard on a new free badged online course to support teachers, parents, librarians, and anyone else who's interested in engaging young readers, in motivating young readers. And this is one of the designs that the illustrator has done for us. So it's coming January. We're desperately editing and seeking permissions from everyone. So do look out for it if that might help you, your staff, or the colleagues you're working with. And now we're moving to our book wave. Sam, can you show us the last slide, please? It's almost time for a cup of tea or a glass of wine, or in my case, a drive home from Milton Keynes. Oh, joy. So please, Sam, lose that one, and we'll go to screens ourselves. And can I ask everybody, invite everybody to grab a book somewhere? I believe we've got several members of the team who are trying to take photographs of this. So put whatever your book is up with your face, without your face. Wonderfully, we've still got over 88 folk, and we had 102 at the most. So that's a great number of people here to be celebrating. Oh, great to see you, John. Hurrah, what are you recommending? Can't see everybody's. Do go to the next screen and maybe Rich can snap that one too. If anybody else can put their visuals on and wave a book. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Claire McGreevy, hiding. Suddenly, Claire McGreevy appears. And Cally Poplak there too. And great, Claire and her young son. Oh, I can't think, see. Lovely to see you, Phoebe, congratulations. And Jenny, congratulations. Laura's here too. Lovely. And many of the judges, Joy Court, Fiona Evans, Cally Poplak, Alison too. So thank you, everybody. Safe journeys home or down the stairs or into the kitchen. Somebody's got race cars. My goodness, that needs a discussion, doesn't it? We've finished on time. Would you believe it? I know you first. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. And congratulations again to the winners, to Georgie and everybody. I can't see everybody's name here and I haven't got the long list, so apologies if I just missed somebody out. And Lucy, love to see you there. I recognise the clock. Okay, thanks everybody. Take care.